And now we get to everyone's favorite chapter in the Escapades of Fay Willows. Escapades of Fay Willows, Book 3. Picking up this book, you pause for a moment, and then it hits you. Our dark emotions seem to emanate from the pages within. After a brief moment though, the feeling passes, leaving you to wonder what it was you just felt. Chapter 1. Blackened Shoreline. Truly there has to be no other place showing more damage in Maj'Eyal than its southern shoreline. Though I never traveled to the eastern side of the continent, I can't imagine it potentially being destroyed to the extent that it has been here. These lands will never fully heal, but I do hope it will serve as a reminder to the shoreline to never rashly use magic in such a way again. Following the travel instructions I received from the halfling, I proceeded south. I do not know why I didn't just head back home. Something about the anger burned within me. It was pushed me to find these instructors the halfling spoke of. As I went south, the sky would turn a shade of colors, from blue to purple and then blackish red. Before long, I couldn't even see the sun anymore, thick smoky clouds blanketing the sky. After a full day of travel, I set up camp near some burnt out trees. There was little to forage for in the destroyed wilderness, but I was able to find some edible berries and mushrooms and save on my provisions. The next day, I continued on my journey. After a few hours, I reached the southern shoreline, a horrible sight to say the least. The waters bubbled as if being boiled, and the ground was charred black. But trees or plants that still stood were completely dead and lifeless, as was the wildlife that had not escaped, their dead bodies even left untouched by the bugs and worms. Walking eastwards, I could see small pools of lava escaping to the surface, forming small lakes or streams of red-hot death that I cautiously had to avoid. To the north, I noticed the lands jaggedly shooting out and actually toward the sky, as if being pushed up from below. Moving closer toward a raised landscape, I saw that the rocks rose as high as a mountain in the distance, twisting chasms, death traps of pointy spikes, and rivers of lava visibly cut throughout. Ramming back to the shoreline shores I treated in Elvia, I realized why they had moved northwards to come home. The center of the continent, where Midvale Plains had been located, no longer existed. It was now replaced by this deadly gauntlet that would certainly kill anyone inside it, both before and after Spellblaze occurred. The soldiers may have also encountered these fanatics I was seeking too, which might itself be reason enough to avoid moving south. Beginning to travel through the devastated landscape, I had to be careful. The light of the sun was snuffed out by smoke and debris of the area. The only way I could see my footing was from the glow of the nearby lava emerging from the ground. I don't know for how long I would head eastwards, but my progress through the land was slow. In the course of time, I could see an impassable river of red ahead of me, the lava flowing down to the open sea with some burnt out remains of a dense forest behind it. I noticed to the north a clearing in the land above, so I continued my way up to see if I could find safe passages that way. I grunted as I climbed the terrain to a plateau, seeing a small cavity appear in the jutted mountains up ahead. The land under me was precarious, but I was able to find decent footing through the lethal landscape of deadly drops and pitfalls. Slowly I made my way through to an opening, then into a clearing, and saw a path leading through a coarse rock. Then in the distance, I discerned what looked to be an image of a group advancing fast towards me along the path. Drawing near, one of the figures in the group caught eye of me, yelling out to the others. They slowed to a cautious crawl as they began to approach. I was a bit amiss as to who these beings were, wondering if they might be some unknown monstrous race due to how large they appear to be. They were both tall and wide, and had bulging mass of muscles evident on their bodies from quite a distance away. Something also glistened on their skin, which as they drew closer I identified to be glowing runic insignias, similar but distinct to those runes I had handled in Elvia. Getting to earshot, one of the beings finally called out, "If you plan on taking us back, be prepared for a fight." In a sign to show I wasn't hostile, I put my belongings on the ground. This action seemingly taking the beings back a bit. Though still on the edge, they assumed a less aggressive stance. "You aren't aligned at all with those cultists, are you?" The being continued. "My apologies for any distress we may have caused you." I merely shook my head as their words reached me, realizing at the moment they were likely more victims of those mass fanatics. I proceeded to ask who they were and what had happened. "Never seen an ogre before, I assume," the ogre said. "We are, or we were, a nomadic tribe that wandered the lands as peddlers. Mostly, we sold ruins and infusions, but we also sold other various small trinkets too. Then magic rained down from the sky, and the earth opened up, destroying everything and killing many. we immediately went to help those we could in nearby human city. At this point, tears began to stream down the ogre's face. Continuing to speak between his sobs, the ogre shakily said, "I'm not sure why, but a small band attacked us." At this point, the ogre began to cry, to the point that I was unable to speak. Seeing this, another ogre with several scars on his face stepped forward. "We were bound in chains and taken to a small settlement just beyond this path," the scar ogre started. "There we were subjected to insane experiments, something about cleansing us, and we witnessed a great many of our ogres dying grotesque and horrible ways. Realizing we would meet a similar fate, we broke out of our bonds and made to escape from our cages." They were paused for a bit, surveying the devastated lands I crossed. "Although I'm not exactly sure where we may be running to." Chapter 2: The Fleeing Ogres. There is so little that is known about the ogres, and apparently they know nothing of their own history either. This may have to do with my own remoteness from the outside world, but one of their race has only recently come to inhabit Maj'Eyal. Viewing the shoreline archives, there is little mention of the ogres, and I don't believe anyone on the floor would know much of them either. I wonder where the ogres truly come from. I could feel the stare of the entire group looking past me, towards the uninviting landscape. They did not know where they could run to, only to run. Looking to establish as indeed the masked fanatics they were running from, I asked, "Did the cultists you speak of wear masks on their faces?" The ogres immediately snapped their gazes back on me, tense fear unmistakable in their eyes. It was enough to tell me that the cultists they spoke of, and the masked fanatics I encountered, were obviously one and the same. I remembered the anger within me that I felt, knowing that these ogres were now facing those same sinister fanatics, the ones that initiated those atrocities in Nargle Kingdom, or even that human who would try to kill me. At that point, I decided that if I could help these victims of those magically madmen, then I would. Remembering the ruined return that had been handed to me in Elvia, I looked up and declared, "If you follow me, I can lead you to Elvia. They have cut themselves off from the outside world, but I'm sure you can find safety within their lands." The ogres immediately locked their eyes on me as I said these words, the shock and irritation clearly shown on their faces. "You would suggest we go to the shoreline," the scarred ogre callously responded back. "Weren't they the ones behind this Spellblaze? We'd be peacefully going about our lives if it wasn't for them turning the world upside down." Keeping my calm, I decided to try persuading the ogres to go to Elvia, replying, "Where else might you go to survive?" To this I continued to receive frowns, but one of the ogres pondered a question and asked, "Would they even help us? Would we even be safe?" I stopped for a moment at the first question that I was asked before responding. They are unable to help those in the outside world, a result of the actions from the same cultists that captured you. However, I know they feel deeply for what they have done, and I believe they will offer you sanctuary if you go to them. If you have nowhere else to head towards, allow me to bring them to them to ask for shelter." As I finished speaking, I caught notice of one of the ogres staring back. Seeing this, some of the ogres turned to look at the ogre as well, before one of them asked, "Is it them?" Carefully looking at the ogre, I saw some sort of dark blue glow covering his eyes, and his gaze seemed to be as if he was looking at something. Suddenly the ogre piped up all at once, "We need to move." All of a sudden, I see a great expression take a hold of every ogre in the group. One seemed to begin muttering under breath in a panicked manner, "What do we do?" A bit ignorant of what was going on, I asked, "What is it?" The ogre with the glowing eyes quickly turned to face me, his eyes now searching me intently, worried perhaps of a potential deception. "You better not be trying to mislead us, Valor," the ogre friendly stated, his words ringing in an ominous tone. "Take us to Elvia. We need to move. Now!" Taken off guard by the abruptness of the demand, I simply started out okay. The ogre, not missing a beat, called for the others, "Let's go." Hastily he approached me and grabbed my arm, before beginning to run with me in tow, the thunderous sounds of the other ogres soon following us. Recklessly, we seemed to charge through the death traps of the land, as we jumped small chasms and skirted past sharp rock. What had taken me the whole of a day to traverse, we seemingly traveled in an hour. The ogre that kept a hold of my arm would sometimes lift me up to avoid the hazards of the ground, making for a bumpy run. Pointing out the western direction that we needed to go with our arm, the group swiftly turned, and we began dodging the lava that pooled and streamed all over the southern shoreline. I was beginning to wheeze and choke at this point. The ogre holding my arm, recognizing my distress, and making motions to our ogres to stop running. As he slowed down to stop, the ogre turned his head to look to our rear, the same dark blue glow appearing over his eyes once more. My curiosity toward the glowing eyes finally gained the best of me, I asked what he was doing. The glow immediately faded as the Ogre looked at me. I take it you aren't very well versed in runes. The Ogre dully responded. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised, being how versed you've lore and art to arcane. I'm using a rune that grants me vision of what the terrain is like around me, though I'm not necessarily using it for a specific purpose right now. The Ogre stopped talking for a moment to look back again. The glow returned to his eyes. Chiming in to finish the explanation again, the scarred Ogre stepped up, saying, He's looking back to see how far away those cultists chasing us from our encampment are. We were being chased? I suppose I shouldn't expect any less from those loathsome cretins. Luckily they very much wanted to recapture the Ogres for whatever nefarious intentions they had. I began to recall the events I recently witnessed in the Narco capital, and how unsettled I felt afterwards. I wondered what atrocities these Ogres had suffered by their hands. Looking to stop myself from recalling any more of those terrible memories, I pressed the scarred Ogre, and how I knew we were being chased. To give you the short version, his vision rune is giving him the power to see the relative location of the individuals pursuing us, the scarred Ogre explained. There's a bit more to it than that, but for our purposes, you can get a pretty good glimpse of where those cultists following us are, relative to features in the landscape. Rather impressed that the Ogres could do that, I wonder what our feats the runes could accomplish. I figured, when we were in relative safety, that I might ask the Ogres a bit more about their runes, what we're capable of. Then I heard Curse turning to see glowing eyes of the Ogre now peering ahead of us at something else. Pressing him on what was wrong, the glow went away from the Ogre's eyes, and Quality Ogre gave a heavy response. There's a group of people in front of us. There are definitely cultists among them too. At this, the face of the Ogres turned to a look of total dismay, the hope of escape fading away. The muttering Ogre would say, What do we do again? I don't want to go back would promptly come from another. One by one, cavalry words spewed from the mouth of every new Ogre every moment, until it seemed everyone in the group was erupting in fear. For a moment the sorry display continued, until finally the Ogre holding my arm let go and yelled to the others, Enough of your sniveling! The other Ogres went silent at this, now looking up, as if waiting for directions. Chapter 3. Battle Preparations. By this point in my life, I had never seen an actual battle, let alone been a part of one. However, I do not believe this is necessarily the case for the Ogres. They say that they live as nomadic peddlers, but I wonder if perhaps this is just a cover story for themselves. Maybe they hired themselves out as mercenaries, or other such adventurers to combat. It is hard to know what lies within their past, whether recent or distant. Realizing the situation at hand, the Ogre of the Vision Rune now took up the task of preparing the others for the fight to come. Stepping forward to address them, he quickly broke into a speech. The enemy is on both sides of us, but we aren't cornered yet. Those behind us have to travel through the treacherous ground we just traversed. Those ahead of us are still some distance away. We have time to form a plan and prepare for battle before either group arrives. As the Ogre finished, one of the others soon piped up. What will you have us do, Commander? The newly minted commander grunted before replying. First, we need a plan of attack. To this, another Ogre stepped up. How fast is each group moving toward us? The Ogre asked. Which one will be on us first? At this, the commander paused for a moment, then proceeded to take a look in front and behind him at the two approaching groups. When he was finished using his vision rune, he responded. The group behind us are closer, but it looks like they are only slowly navigating the lands we crossed due to all the hazards. The ones ahead of us are approaching at rapid speed and will likely get to us sooner. Do you think we should hit the front group first, strategist? I could see the strategist raise his head, smiling a little bit upon being named. Yes, sir! The strategist piped up. Maybe we can punch through them before getting hit in our rear. The commander nodded to this, and then friendly began to address the other Ogres again. We don't have any weapons to fight with, the commander boomed, but we can use the environment to our advantage. Knock them into hostile terrain. Use choke points to avoid them being overwhelmed by their numbers. Fight dirty and kick the blackened dirt into their faces. The commander stopped to take a deep breath before hollering. We will not be going back! To this, the other Ogres howled the same. We will not be going back. Then all the Ogres broke into a resounding roar, raising both their arms and their voices. They shook their hands and made odd gestures with them. There were no more signs of the craven display I just witnessed of them prior. I immediately noticed the bigger ones, Ogres, break off towards some of the trees. With surprising ease, they ripped some of the sturdier ones out from the ground. Then, after breaking the branches and roots off, they proceeded to swing the trunks around like giant clubs. More ingenious Ogres started to rip their clothing into careful strips. They then took their belts off, fashioning them together with strips, and constructed crude slings. Other ogres collected rocks and piled them on the ground nearby, ammo I assume for said slings. Some ogres seemed to pair off with each other and perform odd poses. When finished with their poses, they would seemingly begin to punch and kick in the air. I believe it was some sort of practice for fighting unarmed. I stood awestruck at the sight of the ogres and their astounding ability to turn into a fighting force. I didn't even notice when the commander came up to me. Attempting to get my attention, he loudly commanded, "Valor! Focus!" I snapped my head quickly in his direction. "What?" I stammered, zoning back into my immediate situation. "Do you have anything that can help us out?" the ogre asked. Registering the words of the ogre, I quickly jerked off my pack off and pulled it apart to display its contents. "This is all I have," I said. The commander peered into the bag, then reached into it to grab the hatchet and a utility knife. He weighed the two objects in each hand before bringing up the hatchet and taking a few swings. Wearing a satisfied expression, he handed the knife back to me. "None of us can use this," the commander said. "It's too small for an ogre to wield effectively. You take it and use it to defend yourself." Hearing those words, I soon realized something. I would be in this fight. While I might have chased off a hungry animal or two, I didn't have any actual experience in real battle, or even against an armed opponent trying to kill me. The commander, seeing the discouragement in my face, then softly said, "That you have come this far with us, I can tell you aren't with those cultists. If need be, just run. Focus on saving yourself. They likely will let you go. It is just ogres they are after, not you." The words tore through me, igniting my emotions within. Shouting back at the commander, I responded, "No, I will fight with you!" I'm not sure if it was the anger within me, or my anger against the fanatics, or something else that caused me to say those words, but I knew I would not let the ogres fight alone. I might die in a fight, but I would not run from it. To this, the other ogres quickly glanced my direction, surprised but nonetheless happy. One ogre gave a cheerful shout, "To battle!" The other ogres soon shouted to battle as well. Finally, the commander raised his hand to signal the other ogres to be silent, before giving a slight nod to me and softly saying to battle. The commander didn't give much time for the other ogres to get themselves ready, likely mindful of the fanatic group behind us. Calling for the ogres to gather, he formed them into several small groups. I was told to join the group closest to the sea, while a strategist was directed to take a command of the group and back. The commander then assumed a leading position in one of the middle groups. When the ogres were assembled, the commander gave the order to advance, and would quickly begin to forge ahead over the terrain. The hazards of the land prevented everyone from keeping pace with each other, though each individual group moved in a fairly disciplined manner. I dodged lava, uneven ground, burnt foliage, and the crashing waves of boiling water as I tried to keep up. This would continue until we could see the image of the fanatics appear in front of us. Chapter 4. To Battle. Due to the darkness of the sky and the scorched lands of the battlefield, it was hard to see anything, but I still remember the sounds of battle in great detail. The bubbling sounds of lava and boiling water, the war cries that filled the air, the magical discharge from the ogre's ruins, the sounds of weapons clashing against each other. Of course, none of those sounds compared to the death cries of the ogres or the fanatics, when their lives used to be. As we closed in, I could make out the forms of the individual fanatical warriors in the opposing force ready against us. Their battle line consisted of a couple of rows, with fighters in front and archers in back. Considerably outnumbered, it looked as if they had the upper hand over us, although I now wonder if that's truly the case. Many weren't wearing masks, and their entire clothing reminded me of the refugees in the Nautical Kingdom. Perhaps they were new initiates, swayed joined by the words of those Maj'Eyals with them. All the initiates wielded weapons, but even I could tell they had little idea how to hold them properly. The Maj'Eyals in the group were a different story. They held their weapons well, and a few of them even wore armor. The light from surrounding lava bouncing off the metallic plates, chains, and rivets. Most stood in the front line, even some of those with bow or sling in hand, likely to encourage their new initiates by leading from the front. I also recognized one of the Maj'Eyals as well, that being a halfling with the leather armor that aided the human with the dark cloak. I remember those swift moves the halfling made, and wondered how much of a difficult and bloody fight this battle might come to be. Voices rang out for Maj'Eyals as they prepared the initiates around them to defend themselves. Shots and arrows came towards us with lightning speed as we advanced, a couple ogres howling as they were hit by incoming fire. Those ogres with makeshift slings in our ranks soon began to throw rocks into the opposing line, many of their shots peppering the initiates specifically. Several of the initiates screamed in pain, staggering about dazed and disoriented, and bringing chaos to the next line. Then I heard a call from my commander. our line suddenly stopping a small distance away from our enemy. The fanatics looked at us with confused faces. I must say I was perplexed as well. Then the Ogres began raising their arms up. All at once, an array of colors lit up our darkened surroundings, as the insignias on the Ogres' ruins began to glow. As I looked at one of the Ogres near me, I could see a light green glow encircling her arm, before a torrent of acid appeared and shot forth. The acid lashed out several fanatics, drenching their bodies and causing some to drop their weapons. Then a flash of lightning shot forward above me, piercing through a zealot and an initiate in front. Many of the fanatics began to scatter for cover, unable to cope with the onslaught power that the Ogres were unleashing on them. Some of the initiates fell to magical barrage, while a few others began to visibly break. It looked as if we had the fanatics on their back foot, but then I heard a piercing cry. The horrendous screeching reminded me of those burned to death in the Nargle Kingdom. All at once, my surroundings had darkened again, the Ogres' magical attack stopping abruptly. I could see some of the Ogres near me try to raise their arms again, but the light from the Ogres' ruin-covered skin had now dimmed. Ahead of us, many fanatics lay on the ground, injured or dead, but the majority of them still stood ready to fight. Suddenly, the fanatics seemed to cheer, beating their swords and shields, apparently not to sway from fighting by the Ogres' efforts against them. Out of the corner of my eyes, though, I noticed a figure charging forward toward the fanatics' line. Running by some lava, I could see that it was the Ogre commander. Gritting his teeth and my hatchet in hand, he approached one of the masked zealots to give a powerful blow. The zealot was sent reeling backwards through the air and into a pool of lava. I remember feeling a dark sense of satisfaction as I saw that first fanatic burn alive, a fitting end for one who likely took part in those burnings from before. The hooting and hollering from the enemies ceased at this, while the commander turned to a shaken initiate nearby. With a simple swipe of the hatchet, the commander sliced the initiate's head clean from his body and caused it to glide through the air. The mere sight of the commander in action inspired our Ogres, who immediately surged forth to join the carnage. Visibly panicking now, due to the wall of giant figures moving against them, many of the initiates broke and began to flee. The masked zealots stayed to fight, a slew of them subsequently began knocked about. Those that wore armor would stand a bit more firm, but mostly they were clobbered to death by fists and tree trunks. The enemy was falling up before us, and I was sure the battle was nearly won. Then I saw an Ogre sail from the air above me, landing into the boiling waters in the sea nearby. One by one, Ogre after Ogre began to join a growing chorus of agonizing cries. Peering out into the shadows, I could see a small image rushing all around the battlefield in the direction of their origin. Suddenly, as the enemy war came to a stop near a lake of lava, I realized it was a masked halfling. Catching an Ogre nearby to the lava unaware, the halfling suddenly knocked the Ogre over, resulting in them burning to death. Out of the darkness, an Ogre appeared and attempted to smash the halfling with a violent blow of retaliation. With a simple crouch, the halfling ducked, before quickly jabbing at the Ogre's stomach. Then the halfling jumped up and landed a devastating kick against the Ogre's head, knocking the Ogre out. A third Ogre promptly came out to attack the halfling with a tree trunk, but with a sidestep the halfling simply moved out of the way, disappearing into the darkness. The Ogre followed, but from the grunting and yelling, it seemed that Ogre did not fare well either. The halfling would emerge again and again, leveling Ogres with shocking ease before escaping from counter-attack. Ogres in the shadow would be attacked and shout in pain, while those who strayed too close to the hazards of the landscape would find themselves spiraling into death traps. In an instant, the battle had shifted in the fanatics' favor, while trepidation and fear was beginning to sweep over the Ogres. Chapter 5 Dark Resolve. It is hard to describe the sensation that came over me. It was still me, but I didn't feel in control. That other me, it seemed to have thrived on the violence I inflicted or received, and wanted nothing more than to endlessly kill. It caused me sadness as I inflicted misery and terror on those I came upon, as it died, screaming in agony. It is someone I hope to never become again. All around me, I could see the Ogres near beginning to lose the will to fight. What's worse is that some of the initiates that had fled had now returned, beginning to batter their shields, holler, and posture once more. From one of them I heard the phrase, "Hooray for nature's champion." They would yell other phrases too, such as "Nature's might shall prevail," or "The Ogre's magical taint ends." The sheer display of strength from the halfling and heckling the initiates would further sap the morale of the Ogres. So much so, they began to shake in fear, and turn to cowards yet again. Nearby to me, an Ogre even dropped her weapon, and fell to the ground, having lost all hope. I lowered my head as I felt the tears begin to stream down from my eyes. I could feel the anguish, dismay, and all the other hateful emotions being directed at the Ogres. I remember once again the events in Nargle Kingdom, how the fanatics instigated that deplorable spectral fire, and what they did to me after. It made me angry. Angry at those inflicting the pain, inflicting it for their petty reasons. The Ogres didn't deserve this, nor did the innocent victims that the fanatics burned alive, nor me. Those inflicting all this heartache, producing endless atrocities, they were all insufferable gnats. What's more, they disparaged nature's name while doing so. I felt I had to do something to keep this from happening again. I felt I needed to kill them. Yet, what could I do? Nothing. I could hate them all I wanted, but I wouldn't stop these perpetrators of cruelty. Even if I could kill one or two of the fanatics, there would be the rest of them. Not to mention the other crew behind us that yet to catch up. There was no chance of victory, no chance of being saved. As I looked around, the number of ogres fighting continued to diminish. I could feel despair starting to take a hold of me, as if I was falling into an abyss of nothingness, deep within myself. Save for my hatred, I couldn't feel any other emotion. What did I hate? I despised the fanatics, but I couldn't direct my hatred fully towards them. No. It was myself. Because I could do nothing? No. Something else. Does the tree hunting wish to leave? I heard a voice say to me. Maybe run back to yon forest. I looked up to see a masked dwarf, holding an axe shield. We know you, Fay Willow, the dwarf said. You have no taint of magic. You are an ally of nature. From where you stand, it would seem you are an ally of the ogres. The dwarf brandished a weapon wildly as he continued to talk. You know, the dwarf mused. Perhaps I shouldn't be blaming ya. I'm sure the ogres told you some wild tales, and this is just a misunderstanding. We just wanted to help the ogres, you know, and they seem to be getting a little bit more cooperative now. It's a shame a few of them had to die, but messages had to be sent. The dwarf began to chuckle for a moment, as he finished speaking. The dwarf stopped chuckling to continue again. How about you cooperate with us too, honey? Else, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to. The writing for this chapter has been increasingly looking more messy, as if the writer was writing as fast as he could, or with an unsteady hand. But now suddenly the typeface starts to completely change, with the letters looking slightly contorted. You wonder if a new writer took over to write. All at once, the sounds of battle seemed to disappear. My focus solely on the dwarf in front of me. In the next moment, all I could see was blood. Blood on my hand, on my arm, on the mask of the dwarf, on my knife plunged in the throat of the dwarf, and from the cost out of the dwarf. Dropping the axe and shield to grasp at the knife, the dwarf choked as it tried to breathe. Slowly I bent down to pick up the axe, gripping it with my left hand, and bringing it back behind my head. Then with all my strength, I brought the axe down on top of the dwarf. I felt a strange feeling for me as the dwarf died to the blow, coursing through every fiber of my being. At that very moment, I recalled the elder old halfling I killed from when I initially started my travels. I had hated the reasons set in support of Spellblaze, and became angered to no end at the ones behind that nonsense. I had followed the halfling out with a steak knife in hand, and I killed him. It was a horrible feeling taking a life, yet a dark surge of energy coursed through me, wanting to drive me to kill more. This drive to kill was the real reason I fled that settlement. I was afraid I would kill someone who didn't deserve it. That halfling I killed didn't really deserve to die, but these fanatics? It felt as if something in my line had snapped. I remember laughing very loudly. It was a dreadful feeling. I might have been crying too. I couldn't tell what emotions to feel, and I wondered if I was going mad. What was happening to me? I don't know. I still don't know. Neither do I know now. But that was important. The urges to kill were growing. The ogres around me could no longer fight. Yet, I didn't exactly care about that, No. I was really concerned about the fanatics. There was no innocence to be found from these zealots. These instigators of torment and madness. Or the initiates blindly following them. The drive within me to kill was strong. I wondered, why was I resisting it? I could kill these fanatics with a clear conscience, couldn't I? Maybe help the ogres escape too. Then I noticed a human zealot looking at me and a dead dwarf. I began to make my way over, the human seemingly waving a sword in one hand in a threatening manner. For some reason I thought it was kind of funny, despite what should have caused me to think of intense fear for my own well-being. I could hear muffled shouts of something coming from the human, though I couldn't distinguish what was being said. As I drew closer, I saw the human shake, so much so that the mask born shifted, the man's face underneath being partially revealed. I could see the fear in his eyes, before he raised his shield and attempted to hide away. I remember the joy I felt that fear. I used the axe to sweep the shield from the man's hand, knocking it away so he couldn't break eye contact anymore. I think I was smiling at this point, grinning madly. I could feel the fear building within the man, and I was relishing in it. At the same time, though, the sadness inside me, the other emotions. I was plunging deeper into the depths of my own darkness. He was terrified, and tempted to thrust forward to attack me, lunging out towards... Where was he attacking actually? I think he intended to attack me, but he ended up moving over to the side. I simply raised the axe in my hand, as I'd done before with the dwarf, and brought it down with a deep blow that connected the human's shoulder. The man cried out as he dropped to the ground, holding where his arm used to be, the red blood spurting and bubbling from his severed arm, and the sword still clutched in his closed hand. He didn't try to move away, just as a lovely, nearby pool of lava caught my attention. I smiled a little as I kicked at his body, sending him in with a plop. I felt a strange sense of joy as he burned alive in front of me, yet simultaneously felt disdain for what I'd just done. I felt an surge of energy course through me as the man finally died. I felt a great urge to kill him more. I wondered at this point if I would be able to stop myself. Why would I want to stop? I should be awfully trying to kill these fanatics, shouldn't I? I could hear screams of terror of others around me. I noticed the sounds were coming from those wearing mass eater. Easy pickings to satisfy my urge to kill. I began to approach them yelling for help, my intense urge to kill rising with each step. Unexpectedly though, I felt a strong pull in my arm, preventing me from moving forward. Looking to see what I caught on, I noticed the masked halfling clutching my arm. In an instant, all I could feel now was hatred, remembering everything in Nargle Kingdom that had been done. I thought about how I should pay the halfling back, forgetting about the other weaklings. As I focused all my attention toward my new prey, there were no more thoughts holding me back on what I would do next. Chapter 6. Hateful Wrath. I'm not sure how big the Fanatics group was when we battled them, though only about 20 or so were masks. What I do know is that when I first saw the Ogres, they numbered over 50. After the battle, only 9 of them would join me in escape, though I don't think the rest of the surviving Ogres were all killed. I wonder what cruel end they must have met at the hands of those monsters. This chapter continues in a typeface that the previous one I changed into, but now the letters look more crisp, neat, and in harmony with writing. A certain feeling of malevolence takes hold as you read the text. Unlike the other fanatics, I can remember the gist of the words that came from the halfling. Should have killed you. I was sick to spare me, and so forth. All of a sudden, though, the halfling stopped talking. Out to me came my overwhelming hatred, being channeled into the halfling's body. While this happened, I impulsively spun the axe to the side with my other arm, and slammed his backside into the halfling's shoulder. The solid grip of me remained firm, though I could hear the audible clench of teeth as the halfling tried to ignore the pain. Looking to end things quickly, the halfling lifted me over his shoulder and catapulted me toward the boiling waters of the sea. I don't know what happened next. Being parallel above the ground one moment, appearing behind the halfling next. A startled shriek escaped from the halfling as my blade cut erupted on its backside. Reacting quickly, the halfling spun around and jabbed at me twice, which I casually just swatted away with my right hand. Proceeding to unleash an all-out assault on the halfling, I struck blow after blow against my prey, and left these splits in the halfling's armor. At this point, I can remember the grin on my face, tearing at my face muscles in a natural way. My emotions were releasing with every blow I made, while the halfling seemed helpless to respond. Keenly aware of this though, the halfling switched up his stance and strategy, and attempted to strike back with a series of kicks. I remember receiving several hits to my body, suffering a little from the blows, but feeling a pressure around me release. Swiping back at the halfling with the axe, my blow was now easily dodged, and the halfling subtly responded back with a fury of punches against me. Annoyed now, I retaliated wildly with a wild slash of the axe that the halfling would have no chance to escape from. I savored the yelp as my attack connected, the blade of the axe cutting deep through the chestplate of the halfling's armor, into the flesh beneath. The halfling began to cough up blood now, and suffered greatly from the inflicted wound. I could feel my emotions within the injury, tearing at the halfling's inside. My instincts completely enveloped me at this point, and I began to swing the axe relentlessly with little care what I hit. The halfling tried to dodge my blows again, but none of them hit home. Blood flew, the sliced all around, although I'm not sure if it was all the halfling's blood. I think I may have cut through several other fanatics unintentionally at that moment. I do remember the halfling's swift movement in the other direction, however, attempting to escape the retribution I was bringing forth. The halfling dropped to the ground, the abuse I regretted now taking its toll. I could hear murmuring from all the fanatics around me now, both initiates and zealots. They were all shakily backing away from me. At this point, the writing appears to start to return to the book's original typeface and style. You can no longer feel anything malicious in the words as you continue to read to his last pages. For a brief moment I stood, not knowing what would happen next. Then suddenly, I felt a large hand place itself on my shoulder. Glancing back, I found myself face to face with the Ogre strategist. Talking quickly, the strategist relayed that the other fanatics behind us were closing in. Peeking past the Ogre, I could see the figures of the other group approaching rapidly. Far more numerous and much better armed and armored, the light flickering off the wall of metal that stretched from the elevated rocks to the sea. However, looking ahead, I saw only a handful of initiates and zealots left. If we broke through them now, it would open up a path for escape. It would be my ultimate rebuke, I thought, to see the Ogres to safety, out of the clutches of these fanatics. I called out to the Ogres to break through now, before pushing towards a couple of terrified fanatics ahead of me. The remaining Ogres who were still willing to fight saw this and began to rally. There was no resistance left to be found in Fanatic's line. Their morale was completely broken, due to the halfling being thoroughly trounced, and we simply knocked them aside as we passed by. Looking back at the battlefield, I caught a glimpse of the halfling, staring at me with a cold look but unable to do much else. I could feel a bit of satisfaction rise within me, from snubbing the fanatics and gaining this victory over them. Many of the Ogres had fallen during the battle, many killed by the halfling's hands. Some Ogres remained on the battlefield, alive but too injured to follow, or too demoralized in the case of some. I recalled that female Ogre who had dropped their weapon, knowing that she had not joined us in the escape. There was no way for us to retrieve them. The other group of fanatics already were in pursuit of us, and they would retrace us for a long time to come. Even after fanatics disappeared from our view, we continued to run for a long while. When we did stop, it was only after the Ogres had fallen down, due to wounds inflicted in a recent battle. Retrieving some of my infusions, I was quick to treat her wounds. The other Ogre commander, who had managed to survive the battle, would also come over for aid. The Ogre strategist swiftly took command at this point of the journey. I was told to only use the infusions enough to close their wounds so we could get going again. Further on, when we were a bit far away from the battlefield, I would continue my assistance with the remaining infusions in my pack. For some reason the Ogre strategist looked at me in a perplexed way while I used my last infusion to heal one of the surviving ogres. After I finished up, we would continue to run, non-stop towards shoreline lands. The only brief respites I had were periodic stops to catch our breath. I felt as if we didn't stop until after the sun became visible in the sky once more.